Hi, my name is Kyle, and I'm going to be taking you through the abstract and the introduction for our presentation. So for this project, our team is attempting to predict a Premier League player's average player rating over the course of an entire season, given their statistics for that full year. And we're doing this because we want to understand which factors of a player's game and performance have the biggest impact on their overall rating. And we want to enable managers and executives of clubs to make the most informed decisions. And as we all know, soccer is one of the biggest sports in the world, most popular sports in the world, and it's an expensive industry to get into, with many players and trade deals going for multi-million dollars. Managers and executives of clubs, when they bring in talent, they want to make sure that they're setting up their team for the best and most potential trajectory that they can. And to do so, they want to make sure their club has the maximum overall popularity, success, and profitability. And with that in mind, the research question that our team is analyzing for this project is, what are the main drivers of a player's average player rating in the Premier League? So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Drew, who's going to take you through the literature review.
For our literature review of our research, we cited 5 different peer-reviewed articles in academic journals. Some of them had to do with football or soccer, some of them had to do with regression analysis and other sports, and some had to do with player ratings. The closest one to study done by McIntosh in 2018, which used player rating and regression analysis, but did not use football stats. It used basketball statistics. Our study is unique in that it uses regression and player rating for football. And over to Valeria.
Firstly, for our methodology, we use the data for the players that we found in Football Ref. For the Premier League, we use data for the 2019-2020 season. After collecting the data, we imputed missing values and normalized it. When the data was ready, we used live one out cross-validation and a linear regression to predict our players' ratings. And finally, we evaluated the model by using adjusted R-squared, root mean square error, and mean absolute value. Now I'll pass it on to Kyle, who will explain our results and our expected business impact.
Thank you, Valeria. It's one thing to create a model, but it's another thing to have an accurate and a predictable model. When we take a look to the figure to the right, we can see that our model for the offensive data set showed a strong correlation with average player rating. In fact, approximately 59.5% of the variance in the offensive data set was explained by our model. Furthermore, on average, our model predicted the standard deviation to be about 0.35 standard deviations away from the actual player rating for that season. But what does this mean for the manager? For the manager and for the club, when we calculate a mean absolute error of 0.35 standard deviations, this tells the manager that, give or take, the average player rating will be within about 0.14 player rating points from that rating. How can managers use this information? Well, they'll be able to look at the main drivers of success for a player's rating. For example, 4 of the biggest drivers for a player's rating include goals that are scored from non-penalty kicks, the amount of pressure that a player puts on the opposing team that leads to turnovers, players that can specifically complete more passes within the penalty box, and finally, players that are able to set up other teammates to generate assists. Finally, for the executive, this means the executive will be able to focus on the traits of players both foreign and domestic when they are scouting players to look for their own team. And to cap us off for the project, I pass it over to Alex.
In conclusion, we mentioned that the Premier League and world football is a multi-billion-dollar industry. This means that managers and executives need to know what makes a player great. What makes a player great that we found is 4 variables: the non-penalty goals scored, successful pressures, goal-creating assists, and penalty area passes. These 4 variables we found are statistically significant and can be used to evaluate a player's rating. We would like to thank Professor Lanham, Jin Yu Wang, and Theo Ginting for their guidance and support during this project.